everybody, and welcome to Roxy Reads Presents. This is the show about local authors, local talents, people right in your own backyard. If you realize how much talent we have in Ohio, you'd be amazed. My guest this evening, it was kind of a surprise. I had one of my favorite customers in my bookstore brought in a bag full of books. And I open up this bag full of books. I'm thinking they're used books for the store. And I open up, and it's new books. And I'm just delighted because I have titles like Having Dreams and Little Ditties and Word Working. And it's like, well, this is so cool. And I opened it up, and I realized it was a new, well, not a new, but a local author. And I'm really excited. The gentleman we're having with us today is Dave Schultz. Hello, Dave.
Hi.
Welcome to Roxy Reads Presents.
Nice to be here.
When I'm opening up this book, these books, there's one thing in there, though, that before I even started about the books, that just got me so excited. Your house. He sent a picture of his house. Tell us about your house.
Well, it's a little unusual in the sense it's an octagon, and so everything's at a 45-degree angle. As my friend who helped me build it said, it looks like a stop sign, right? You see a stop sign, it's 8. But it's also a 2-story octagon. It's like a little octagon on top. We should, next time, maybe you'll have me on again. I'll bring a picture of the house,
cool.
right?
Wow, this guy's got to be creative. Look at this house.
And it's not a kid house. Most people that build log cabins and have that, dream of usually go the kit way. And my family wanted me to go the kit way, but I had to go my own way. So we went trudging through the woods, and I was a wood hunter or a log hunter for a few years. And we lived in a little trailer, my wife and I, for 3 years until it was built. And even after we moved in, it didn't have a floor, and we slowly had the floor put in, and we're still not finished with it. Then it got wrecked in a storm, and we had to fix it up again, but it's going to be a whole nother book.
Yeah, I want to see the house. The reason why I mentioned the house, though, is that I looked at this. It just, living in that environment, because it's also, you have pictures of it around in the woods and everything, and I thought, oh, how inspiring this must be for a writer. I mean, does this affect your writing? I think it would inspire me.
Yeah, early on, I grew up in the suburbs. I was born in Murray Hill area in the east side of Cleveland, and now more known as Little Italy. And but every time my father, would take us on drives and we go out into the country, I was always attracted to the open spaces, and how I just happened to go down the street and we took a long drive, my wife and I, and met this eccentric farmer who said we could put a trailer back in his woods. He didn't really take me seriously, and I was led there, and I think it does make a difference, because to look out your window, you don't necessarily, have a neighbor. Well, yes, I do have a neighbor. I have cows to the south of me and foxes in back of me, but it really does. After a while, you notice certain things like I've written. The honking of geese is now more common to my ears than the honking of cars. So that deep sense of quiet, I think a lot of people, when they come and visit, what happens to them is they notice how quiet it is, and frequently they'll get tired and want to take a nap. They'll fall asleep. It calms them down.
I think that living in that environment would just be, well, anyway, you are here to talk about your book, so let me show you what we have.
Sure.
All kinds. I said there were some fantastic titles. Gone with the Geese, which that's your largest one, and
yeah, the most recent. That one just came out in 2004.
Notes of a Dreamer. Mm-hmm. Having Dreams.
All three of these go together.
They go together?
You're going to meet a lot of the same characters throughout all 3 books. They could almost be taken as a trilogy, actually.
Oh, good.
It really records about 20 from 1980 up till a little over 2002. Pretty close to 22 years of my life there, if I'm adding up correctly.
Yeah, I had some questions about whether it was a trilogy.
It's kind of a flowing narrative,
Flow of your life. Little ditties, which you said someone called little dirties
little
because
dirties,
they got
yes,
and
it's
there
got
are
a few
some
little
dirties in there.
Phrases and so forth.
And word writing. But anyway, this one he actually sent me an autographed copy of. But as I read this, I noticed that you have some really great, there's philosophy on here, but you do it with humor.
Right.
I mean, there's one called The Outhouse.
Out to the outhouse. It's cold and dark, I know, but out to the outhouse I will go, right?
Yeah, so do you think humor, is that a major tool you use in your writing?
Well, if I don't know if I'm quoting it correctly, but it's right on the inside cover of the book. I like Frost's line, if it is with inner seriousness, it must be with outer humor. If it is with outer humor, it must be with inner seriousness. Neither one nor the other, how would I say it, won't do. Meaning you need both.
Mm-hmm.
Neither, let me see if I can find it.
See if you can find it in there, okay.
It's, and that's true, because life is like that. That's why, for example, Hamlet, you know, it's a great tragedy, but there are comic scenes, you know, comic relief, you know, like with the gravedigger and stuff. And that's very much like life. In the throes of some great drama or great suffering, there's always room for laughter, or you'll see the comedy of life. Here it is. If it is with outer seriousness, it must be with inner humor. If it is with outer humor, it must be with inner seriousness. Neither one alone without the other under it will do. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Okay. Do you have a favorite one in there? The little ditties?
Oh, well, Trillium time, you know, now that we're in the spring, you want me to
Sure.
read that?
One, because
All
I do
right.
want to get some questions
Yeah,
in there, but
I'll
I
do a
think
little-
it's so cool when an author reads
These
his own.
trilliums, some people may not be especially familiar with them. That oh, my glasses. But they're like a 3-starred white flower, and they grow in rich, fertile ground. And right in the back of our woods, there's just a sea of trillium. In fact, yesterday I was out with my wife. It was a beautiful day, and I said, "Come on, Mary, let's go see the trilliums," which, you know, we've often done. And there's the whole story of life inside the trillium, because it's only lasts for such a short time. So it's a pretty short poem. Trillium time is a flash of white time, morning time before shadow time. Here under the trees, before the trees fully unfold their leaves, they rise in showy, snowy stands in the last fresh days of April's frost and freeze, before the sweat, the mosquitoes, and the fleas, when the pure ideal is briefly, visibly real, before the bugs and worms come to steal. Too soon the milky, silky petals suffer shots of dirty spots. Then the bridal bloom takes on a purple doom and bows to the flower as ferns of a darker day. So my soul tries to hold their glorious array, though I too am corrupted, often obstructed, till trillium time again around the 1st of May. And that's a very timely poem, because we're right in the height of trillium
It's very
time.
beautiful
If
poem.
you've got trilliums, go look for them, because
Oh, wow. I could
Yeah.
spend, we're not going to get on that, though.
but
I gotta
that's
pick
good
up
that you
on-
asked,
that's
because
beautiful.
that's that one's kind of a, you know, I would say special to me, you know, and the way it just kind of came out of me, because I just noticed this you know, woodly phenomena, and the more that you live closer to nature, you know, you really time takes on a different meaning. It becomes more of a circle than a line, you know.
That's beautiful. But you are not just a poet. Although I hate to use
That's
the word
why I live in a
just.
round house,
You
because
write-
we go around
you
and
go
around and
for-
around.
You write so many things. The next thing I looked at, I didn't have a chance because there's a lot here to read it all, but I am going to. But the very next thing I looked at was this one called Having Dreams.
That was the first one, right?
And this description on the back cover intrigues me because, okay, it read, it's about, okay, I'm going to read my own notes rather than trying to find it. It is about what it means to wake up to the wonder of your own life. Elaborate on that a little bit, that quote.
Right. Well, our culture is highly vicarious. We have experience through other things, through other mediums. You know, we're watching, we're observing. You know, sporting events, TV. You know, the computer. You know, it's in a sense externalized. And so to kind of set that aside and look at your own life and see the wonder of your own experience, aside from, you know, whatever the media, the culture, and to go inside yourself and discover that it's not barren. You needn't be afraid. There's a lot down there. You know, you can turn off the TV, you can shut off the internet. You don't have to be talking on the phone. You know, that sort of thing. Start taking notes. That's what I was taking in my one book there, word writing. Keep a little journal. Start to get in touch with your dreams. Find out what's going on inside.
So many times we think we're ordinary.
Right.
I heard someone say one time that everyone has a story to tell.
Right. and try to be your own hero, you know, in your own quest. and not be so interested in what's going on down the street or around the other side of the world.
Now, I often wonder why we do that, why everyone else looks so much more exciting than
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
And when people will say, well, you've done so many exciting things, not me, not me. Anyway, as I was going through this, the first one I just kind of glanced through which essay I wanted to read first. I guess I'll call them essays. And I came across Finding the Dodge and Losing Sarah. Well, first of all, was it in this one? Anyway, first of all, it was the picture of the Dodge got my attention. And Sarah's a cat? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she was my first cat when I went out on my own, and I fell in love with this old car. I was living in Akron, and it's part of, again, the finding out who you are. I'm attracted to the past. I always have been. And so I fell in love with a 48 Dodge. It was sitting on the street for sale for $1,600. I sold my Camaro at the time. I had like a 74 Camaro. This was back in '81. And borrowed $600 to buy this car. And I had it for 19 years. I restored
So you
it, took
did
on
get
all
it
kinds of
fixed.
adventures, got it fixed. Yeah, the engine
because
broke
when I
on
read
it.
this, it wasn't fixed.
I had to borrow money from my dad. He was upset with me, wondering what's going on with his son. He's driving this crazy old car, and got a 6-volt battery in it, and that was kind of the again, taking a departure. I was on my own for the first time, and I was trying to find my own voice as a writer, but try to also kind of define myself and be followed by your own passions and your own interests. I have an old car today. I finally sold it, but I have a 48 Chrysler New Yorker that's much like it, big blue car.
You do the big car shows and everything
And
like
I
that?
have gone to the Stan
How
Hewitt show a
fun.
few times, and
fun.
so that's kind of part of my myth, is me traveling in the old car, going on adventures with it, romancing my wife in it, and we got married in it, and we went
got
off to
married
Florida.
in a car?
Well, not married in it. But
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
my father drove married to the church in it, and then we went off down to Florida in it, and then went up to New Jersey
Oh,
and
the
lived a
stories
while.
the car
And
could
of course,
tell.
the notes tells the story of our life in New Jersey when I was fixing the car and restoring it before we came back to Ohio to live in the woods. But oh yeah, there's all kinds of, and of course I name her Susie, so there's always
You named it.
stories
You named
about
your car.
Susie.
Oh, that's
and,
funny.
And it was a big deal in my life, because it was like another way of defining yourself. Well, this is like my friend Lenny was saying. Find out who you are. This is who I am, and you have to accept it. And that you can't say no to it. In a sense that you really have to follow that. Of course, Carl Jung would say, it's in your unconscious.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break.
Go ahead.
And I have more questions for you here in just a little bit.
Okay.
So. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I want to talk about the trilogy we have here going on, Having Dreams, Notes of a Dreamer, and Gone with the Geese. Well, one of my questions was, I was going to ask you, are these fictional or are they memoirs? Because you keep refer to them as characters. So are they memoirs of things, people you actually know?
Right. Like as I was saying before, we started the show, when we were sitting here talking, I've always admired Herodotus, who has been called the father of history, and so you really could consider me like a local historian who puts a poetic touch to things. I mean, I guess I poeticize real life, but I like to work directly from life. So early on I decided I'm not going to have any fake names for these people in my life. His name is Paul, and his name is Lenny, and his name is Tim, and that's my mother, that's my father, and I mean, to some risk. I mean, I've gotten some flack from it,
I was
because
getting ready to say, does anyone get mad at you?
As Mark Twain says, only dead men can tell the truth. But I mean, I might leave a few things out, but I pretty much like to work very close to life. So yes, all those things are all in there. Happened, and
So they don't.
and
Has anyone gotten mad at you?
it can read. I haven't been sued yet, so
Okay.
but,
Okay.
I mean, I try to treat everyone lovingly. I don't try to write maliciously about anybody, because I find usually if a person winds up in my work, it's out of affection for them. They become a character in my work. So even though I might try to give a round portrait of them, I still.
Do you have to get an honest
It should be. If it was read aloud at a party, people would laugh, and if everybody was there, I mean, I think there would be. I think you would sense that I don't have an axe to grind as far as motives, and there's just a sense of like I feel that this should be recognized. This should be raised up. It should be honored in some way.
So as a trilogy, then I'm assuming they're actually different time periods of your life. Starting in youth, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah, Having Dreams would be.
Yes, you look a little different here.
From 82. Well, it starts in 81 and finishes with my wedding, so it covers just a couple years there. And then Notes of a Dreamer covers from 83 to 86 when we lived in New Jersey, and then Gone with the Geese covers a big span from 86 to I believe 2002.
Okay. As I was reading it, though, it does almost read like a novel. It doesn't, not to, people who haven't read you may not know what to expect. They might just be thinking it would be just excerpts from a person's life, kind of dull, but it isn't. It reads like a novel. There's a lot of exciting events in there. So, yeah, I would encourage people to look at it. I did want to talk about this, though, because this is kind of near and dear to my heart. I love to write. I wouldn't publish anything, but I love to write. And there's so many things in here that are just so obvious. I wish people could see. This would be a great textbook for a class. It's called Word Writing. And a couple of things I wanted to bring out in it is you mentioned cliches in here. You've got a whole chapter with cliches, and then you said instead of avoiding the cliche, if you have to use it, just make it into something.
Break the cliche, as I say. Tweak it.
Yeah.
Do something a little, play off of it if you can.
So, got an example of a favorite cliche that you changed around?
Well, it's a couple of examples now that the one about Mark Twain. You've heard of the line, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," and he said, "Put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket." You see, that's breaking the cliche, taking it and doing something a little different to it.
It's an attention getter, too, like Pizza Hut. Stop and smell the pizza.
Right. Advertising plays around with that all the time. That's why there's a lot of examples in word writing where I look at the world of advertising and for examples of just that, as well as other forms like opposites, that keep, or not euphemisms. What's another thing that advertising often uses? Well, they'll often use alliteration for certain things.
Okay.
A lot of famous names, Bugs Bunny, Mickey
Red
Mouse.
Robin,
Why are so many cartoon
Roxy's
characters?
Roxy's Reads and Remnants.
There you go. Roxy's Reads and Remnants, full of alliteration. And Bed Bath and Beyond. You see?
Yeah, that's true.
So
I'm sorry. I know I'm interrupting,
No,
but I have a question I've been dying to ask a professor, a writer, someone who I think people have sent me poetry to critique, and sometimes you get some things that are really, for lack of a better word, sappy. Flowery. How do you tell a person how do you teach someone not to make it sappy, and how do you teach them to recognize sappy as a teacher?
Sappy or sentimental, right?
Yeah, overly so.
Too much sugar in the coffee, huh?
Yes. Oh, it's nauseating.
Too much.
Darling, I loathe your whatever. What do you do to avoid that?
Right. Well, the best antidote to bad writing is not to write at all. But you don't want to tell them that.
Don't tell that to some of the students.
Well, you've got to do two things to improve, and that's just to read more and read deeply and read all the good stuff. Don't try to just read contemporary things. If you go on these internet, I had a friend that belonged to the site where you log on and you share your poetry. If you're just reading people online, other people's poetry writing just today, then you're really missing out on the whole, how many thousands of years people have been writing poetry. Go back, read some of the great classics here in our own land, whether it's Whitman or Frost or Emily Dickinson. Then you could read some of the great English writers, if it's Keats, Milton, Shakespeare, of course, Get a sense of what's been done. And I think a lot of people that are writing are just, it's a nice release, but they're not really dedicated to the whole craft of it. So it's going to tend to be full of emotion and kind of syrupy and lacking in a certain strength, certain power.
I had a teacher we were actually discussing earlier, Mr. Bruce Weigel, who said after you write it, no matter what you've written, go back and cut it in half. And I thought, no, I'm not giving up my favorite line, you know.
Right.
But when you cut it in half, it made it stronger. How do you teach your students this, and how do you convince them to do it?
Well, yeah, one of the first rule in word writing is be concise. So whether you're writing poetry or prose, what was that line by Mark Twain? He wrote someone a long letter. He says, I'm sorry, please excuse the long letter. If you said, if I had more time, it would have been shorter. You know what I mean? So it's true. After you do consider what you've done, it's always good to let it cool off, take another look at it, and then start chipping into it. And frequently, the best way to strengthen a block of poetry or prose is often to chop it. Mm-hmm. Get your axe out. See right there. Chop.
Exactly.
And that's how you shape. You know.
I
don't need this. Difference. I don't need that. When I started reading, for instance, when I was younger, Hemingway appealed to me because he was so direct. Wow, how did he move from here to here? How come he's just using simple nouns and verbs? The sentences are declarative, but it's clean. What is he doing? You know, he's leaving a lot out, but he's suggesting a lot. And there's a certain it's like being a magician, you know. I mean, you are a what's the word I'm looking for? A shaman, you know. When you know, I mean, to be able to take language and be a philologist, which is a lover of words, right?
Yes, I was going to ask you about. That's your favorite title, isn't it?
Work on that. So there's a lot of people that, you know, just are not. They haven't done enough of it, and they think just because it flows off their pen, it's marvelous, and it's not, you know. And it's just like anything else. Just taking up basketball or sport like that, or a pool, you know, it's a skill.
Well, I would recommend this if there are any teachers watching this show, language arts teachers. This is a very inexpensive little book, and it's very informative. I would definitely recommend this as a textbook for a classroom.
Well, thank you.
You said you've used it in your classrooms.
Yes.
So, okay, a couple questions. You described yourself as a gypsy professor.
Well, until I got to Lorraine College, I was there for about I've been there 18 years, and I've been off a year and a half because we've had that big accident in the house. But
okay, so I'm sorry.
Do we have time? Or
you can go ahead.
Okay. But I had kicked around. Yeah, a Roman academic rat, I described myself in the other book.
Roman academic rat.
And I've taught at Cleveland State. I started out at John Carroll. I had an assistantship there, and I have taught at John Carroll. I taught at Ashland. Then when I was in New Jersey, I taught at Rutgers.
Wow, so you were all over.
I taught at Wayne College, associated with Akron when I came
you are
back.
A gypsy.
So I have been around a little bit.
Well, you also have been here. I don't mean to cut you short, but we are running out of time.
Okay.
And I do want to invite you for coming. I had a ton of other questions and
I'll have to
didn't
come
get
back.
to them. So yeah,
we
we'd love
could
to
talk
have you
about
come
other
back.
things.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Schultz, and thank you for joining us this evening at Roxy's Reads Presents. So I'm glad you came by. I loved it.